My boyfriend has abandonment issues and cheated on me. How do I deal with this? This is going to be a bit of a long story, sorry in advance. I've been in a toxic, 3-year relationship in the past, which has left me with significant trust issues that I'm still working to overcome. When I entered my current 10-month relationship, I was still healing but thought I was ready for a healthy one. However, I quickly realized my past baggage was affecting my present relationship. I found myself constantly checking my 21F boyfriend's 22M phone, obsessively looking for signs of betrayal, even though there was no evidence. After some time, he told me I needed to stop, as it was damaging both to him and to myself. That's when I recognized I had a problem and began therapy to address my trust issues and self-sabotaging behavior. I'm proud of how far I've come. My boyfriend has noticed and praised my progress, especially since he knew what I had gone through in my previous relationship. He and I took things slow when we first met. The first 2 months after we met off of Hinge we had no physical intimacy at all, not even a kiss, which helped build trust. I even opened up to him about my past, explaining that I wanted to make sure I was with someone good for the right reasons. Over time, he showed me that he cared about me for who I was, not just for my body, which was a refreshing change from my past experiences. Things were going great at first. I felt truly loved and safe for the first time, but I also had this nagging fear of getting hurt again. What we had going seemed too good to be true, which I expressed to him. Before I had started therapy, there was a day I felt so loved by him and started crying, telling him how I was scared to get my heart broken again, and being so soon after my previous relationship I didn't think I was healed enough to be in a healthy relationship. After hearing me say this, he started crying and began to have a full-blown anxiety attack, the first of many that I would witness from him. At that point he had already fallen in love with me and the thought of me leaving scared him. Over time, I started noticing signs of trauma in him too. He struggled to open up about it, often becoming overwhelmed and having anxiety attacks when he tried. I felt in the dark for much of our relationship, unsure of how to help him. At the same time, I tried to encourage him to make some positive changes for himself, such as cutting down on alcohol, stopping vaping, smoking less weed, prioritizing other things over video games, and seeking therapy. However, although he agreed to change, he never followed through. It was all talk, no action, and the communication between us started to break down. We had an argument at the end of October that was really bad and ended with me saying I told him, if you want to break up, I understand, because I had lied to him about how much time had passed between my previous relationship and when I met him. Saying those words to him. I didn't know how much worse that would make the situation in his mind. He started crying harder and told me that wasn't even a thought in my brain. I never thought about breaking up. Do you want to give up on us that easily? At the time I hadn't known, but this argument amongst other issues we were having would spark the downward spiral of our relationship. 2 weeks ago, I gave in to the urge to look through his phone, even though I had worked hard to stop doing so and be able to trust him. I could help myself, and Hadi found evidence that he had been cheating on me. I confronted him, and after initially denying it, he admitted it. He had cheated on me twice with a woman that worked in a store right next to his job, both times after we had been fighting, argument after argument, and hadn't been intimate for a while. He explained that he had been drinking heavily, which was the case almost every night since we had the big argument where I had admitted to lying to him, which I previously mentioned. He drank so much he practically blacked out, which led him to make poor decisions. They had hooked up twice before he knew me, when he first moved to the state and started his new job. He said wasn't attracted to her in the slightest, but he was lonely, knew no one in the area, and gave in to her desperation for attention that she was throwing at him when she constantly visited him and flirted with him at work. She continued to do this even after we started dating, and she knew he had a girlfriend, but didn't care, and in moments of weakness he succumbed to his demons and her temptation. There was no intimacy at all any time they were together. Every time it was quick, and the 2 times he had hooked up with her while we were dating he had wanted to be as detached from the reality of the situation as he could and didn't let her in his apartment as he had before we were dating, and restricted the hookup's destination to her car, in the parking garage of his building complex. He told me he had no idea why he did it. He hadn't wanted to do it, but he had no control over his actions, and was deeply disgusted by what he had done. Both times he vomited afterwards. What followed was an emotional breakdown on both of our parts. He shared that he had severe abandonment issues stemming from his childhood. He tried to explain this trauma to me multiple times throughout our relationship, but every time he tried he would break down and have an anxiety attack as if he was physically unable to speak about said trauma. Finally, after 10 months into our relationship, he was able to open up to me and be vulnerable. It's just unfortunate that it took such a betrayal to do so. From his childhood he has been abandoned and unwanted. He was brought into this world by accident. Neither of his parents wanted to care for him. His family didn't pay much mind to him. His longtime ex before me had cheated on him and stole his cat. Both his parents were also serial cheaters, so he grew up thinking it was a normal thing for the longest time, and all the people he had loved in his life left him. As someone who also had mental issues, I can understand how much trauma can alter the brain's thought process. Both times he had cheated on me were after his trauma had been triggered by our arguments, decreased intimacy, and led him to sabotage our relationship by cheating. Before this, he had never cheated and always claimed he would never because he felt the pain that was caused by cheating when he experienced his parents cheating on each other, as well as the pain from being cheated on by his ex. However, like me, he thought our relationship and connection was amazing and too good to be true, and was scared of the heartbreak that would ensue if he poured his entire heart and effort into the relationship and did what he knew he had to do to be a good boyfriend. He claimed had purposely not put his all into being a good boyfriend and doing the things I had asked him to and begged him for because he was scared I would reject and abandon him at his best, so he was protecting himself by only giving me minimal effort so that if I did leave him it would hurt him less. He claims, because of his trauma and childhood, his brain convinced him the only thing to do after all the arguments we were having was to self-sabotage and cheat on me, ruining the relationship by his own hand, before I could break up with him on my own accord, abandoning him. Despite his betrayal, he assured me he wouldn't do it again and has already gone back to therapy and has started showing up as a better boyfriend already. In the 2 weeks since, he's been making a real effort to improve, and I've chosen to forgive him and stay. He's showing up for me in ways he hadn't before, being more open and honest. I believe that by staying and showing him that I won't leave, even after he did the worst thing he possibly could to me, can help him feel secure and begin to heal. However, I also realize that being in a relationship with someone who has deep-rooted abandonment issues can be challenging, and I need advice on how to navigate this moving forward. I love him and want to help him heal, but I also want to protect myself from being hurt again. How do I balance supporting him while maintaining my own emotional well-being in this situation? I've never been involved or known anyone with abandonment issues, so any advice helps at all. Thank you in advance. He's in therapy now, I'm in therapy, and we're going to be starting couples therapy together as well. I've also read that relationships that reconcile after cheating end up being stronger than before, and I can honestly see that happening with us. He's practically a different person now. He's open with me, honest, vulnerable, so much better at communication, already treating me so much better. It sucks it took him cheating on me for this to happen, but he says that this is the wake-up call he's needed, seeing how hurt I was caused him to have even more pain and gave him the motivations he's needed to actually want to heal his trauma and become a better person for not only me, but himself as well. I've forgiven him already because I know and understand that he's been through a lot and how hard it is to not have 100% control of your brain and thinking processes. He loves me even more for staying even after all of this, and honestly I think I love him more, although part of me still hates him for cheating on me and hurting him like this, because he's trusting me to be this vulnerable and tell me something only his therapist and his parents know about. He didn't even tell his long-term ex about this trauma. She tried to make him, but he wouldn't. He has never been motivated to heal until being with me, and I think I was out in his life to lead him towards that healing, and he was put in mind to open my heart more and be forgiving and patient.